Hi, and welcome to another episode of Everyday Ghalib. If you're a returning viewer, then you know that in this series of short videos, we have been looking at the poetry of Mirza Ghalib and interpreting it for our times. The verses that we choose come from the book Thinking with Ghalib that I have co written with Professor Anjum Altaf of Lahore. And each time we try to connect the verse to contemporary concerns. Today's verse, we find Ghalib in one of his irreverent, let us say, moods, where he is going to take powerful symbols, religious, ritualistic kind of symbols, and play with them, undermine them, provoke us to think about them. So let us look at the verse. ताअत में ता रहे ना मैं-o-añgbīñ की लाग. A little difficult maybe. I'll break it down for you. ताअत में ता रहे न मैं-o-añgbīñ की लाग, दोजख में डाल दो कोई लेकर बहिश्त को. दोजख में लेकर डाल दो कोई बहिश्त को. So what is he saying? Ta'at is obedience, right? Acting according to the rules and values that we are supposed to act according to. That in obedience we may not be desirous of wine and honey, mai-o-añgbīñ, that's wine and honey. So he's setting up a kind of situation in the beginning. It says, well, why do we follow rules? Why do we behave according to how we are expected to behave? Is it for the desire of wine and honey? And this wine and honey is gesturing, as you can guess, to the promise of afterlife. Right? That if you are virtuous and you act according to the right principles today, then after death you will be rewarded with wine and honey. Is that why you're leading a virtuous life? So he's saying, such that our obedience to rules and values and ethics and so on, principles, does not depend on wine and honey. Let's do one thing, shall we? It's a small thing we need to do. What is that? Let's take heaven and cast it into hell. दोजख में डाल दो कोई लेकर बहिश्त को. Take paradise, बहिश्त, and throw it away into hell, thereby removing any carrot that you might want to be able to act like a good person, to be a good person. Now the lesson here is very simple. The language was a little difficult, so it took us time to unpack it, but I'm sure now it's very clear to you what Ghalib is trying to say. To lead a life of virtue, to be a good person, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, why do you do these things? Are you intrinsically motivated and convinced that they are the things to do, that is the way to be? Or are you doing it in expectation of future reward? Not in this life, but in the afterlife. And if that is why you're doing it, then Ghalib seems to be suggesting that's not the right motivation. That's not the right impulse out of which to act in order to be virtuous. And he is proving his point rather dramatically and saying, let's end this whole business of bahisht and what do you get in the afterlife when you go to heaven, etc. Just put it into hell. Dozaḳh mein dal do is also a very idiomatic expression, right? Jo bhaad mein jaye. That's what you would say. That it's just get rid of it, discard it, don't think about it. And it works here very well because it's set up nicely as an opposition to bahisht. Dozaḳh and bahisht. These are the two polar opposites. So the straightforward lesson here to take is, let's work on a society where people feel intrinsically motivated to be decent human beings, to be good to each other, and not because they are ritualistically doing certain things or they are acting in the expectation of these kinds of rewards. I think you'll agree that again it's a very nice thought-provoking sentiment and expressed in a very punchy and mischievous kind of a way, which is trademark Ghalib. Thank you for joining us this time, And join us again in the next episode where we pick one more verse and think with Ghalib. ताअत में ता रहे न मैं-o-añgbīñ की लाग, दोजख में डाल दो कोई लेकर बहिश्त को.